Sometimes people are disappointed because they believe that if they follow God, if they follow Christ, that they will have no difficulties in life, no problems. Maybe they have even heard someone teach this. And so when problems do come, they are confused. They don't understand. They don't know what to do. In the second letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the church in Corinth, chapter 1 and verse 8, he gives us his experience with suffering and how he dealt with it. He writes to the church, "We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about the hardships we suffered in the province of Asia." Maybe in the word uninformed you see the word inform. The word information comes from this. And so if someone is informed, he has information. If someone is uninformed, he doesn't have information. So Paul says, I want you to have information about how I have suffered. Biblia Warszawska says, "Nie chcemy bowiem, abyście nie wiedzieli." So he wants them to understand his situation. And he's going to tell them about the hardships that they suffered. Biblia Warszawska utrapienie. To suffer hardship means to go through a difficult time, to experience things that are unpleasant, that are difficult. And so he's going to tell us about those things. He continues, "We were under great pressure." The word in the original language of the New Testament talks about a burden, something that is heavy. And so there is this pressure on him. Biblia Warszawska, byliśmy obciążeni. So much, he says, that it was far beyond our ability to endure. To endure is to survive something, to keep going despite this great weight. So he was under great pressure. He didn't know if he could endure. It was too much. So much, he says, that we despaired even of life. Biblia Warszawska says, "Wątpiliśmy o życiu naszym." He says, we were so pressured that we really thought we would not survive. And then, to reinforce that, he says, "Indeed," in Polish, to prawdy. So he's giving support to what he's already said. He is making it even stronger. "Indeed, in our hearts, we felt the sentence of death." The word sentence is an answer or a ruling from a court. And he says we felt like we had been condemned to die. We felt like the decision was already made. In Polish, byliśmy już całkowicie pewni tego, że śmierć nasza jest postanowiona. But then he says something surprising. He says, this happened that, we've seen this before, this could be understood as so that, this happened so that we might not rely on ourselves. To rely on is to depend on, to trust. So he says this all happened so that we would not rely on ourselves, but instead on God, who, God is the one who raises the dead. How did Paul know this? Because, of course, Jesus died on the cross, came back to life, and promises eternal life to everyone who follows him. And so Paul says God raises the dead. So on the one hand, Paul felt the sentence of death. He thought he would die, but he knew that God raises the dead. And he continues, he has delivered us from such a deadly peril. This is past tense. And he will deliver us. This is future tense. And on him, on who? On God, we have set our hope. In this instance, to set your hope means the same as to rely on. In other words, to set your hope, to rely on, this speaks of faith. And Paul says we have set our hope on, we have faith that God will continue to deliver us. So Paul was under great pressure, so much that he could not endure, and he despaired even of life. He thought he would die, and even felt the sentence of death. He was sure this would end with his death. But he says this happened so that they would not rely, he and his friends, on themselves, but on God, because God raises the dead. And so, by faith, seeing that God had delivered them, they believed that God would deliver them, that he would continue to deliver them, even in great difficulty.